G'day, citizens, what on the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by old man Hurst himself, Algared. How you doing, buddy?
I'm alive, and that's always a good thing.
It is late here. It is 9 p.m. We have been talking for about 2.5 hours just to get ready for this episode. So we were doing lots of notes on this one. But this actually came out of a live stream, and then I had a kind of a reckoning when, after the live stream, I was watching Voidyvids play the Cargo and in the new PTU on 324, and he just had this penny drop moment, almost like an epiphany, and you could start to see where he was starting to pull all the different gameplays in, and he just kind of realized how they were all interconnected. And I'd had that moment years ago, and I know you have too, and I just kind of went, well, maybe other people need to know about that. And that's kind of what this episode is. It is just a broad overview of tying all the different gameplays together and trying to get you to have that epiphany or penny drop moment like Voidyvids did. I think that covers it, Algared, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do in this episode is, as you said, we'll go through examples of where just taking a couple of things and going through where we think the options are.
Yep.
But also look at the gameplay we've seen, or the suggestions we've made in ISC over the last couple of weeks or so.
Yep.
And things that we know are still coming, and what's the implication of those for those same things, and then hopefully leave enough for you guys to say, okay, we see where you're going.
Yeah, just leave enough. Just leave enough for him to hang himself. But yeah,
that's right. Well, yeah, hopefully we're not hanging ourselves.
But yeah, so what I was talking about on stream was the idea of group missions from different gameplays. So, and to kind of tie that into a little bit of what we've seen before, you've kind of seen a little bit of it in Xenothreat and stuff like that, where you've got people doing the cargo collection and delivery while other people are doing combat, as an example. And for me, it was like starting to look at, well, what are the other combinations of gameplay you can kind of put together, and then looking at other ones. So firstly, cargo and scanning, we're going to talk about that, and then going into other examples. I think we'll go down the line. So yeah,
but even looking at the Xenothreat example of these missions where people are doing different roles, we even saw that kind of in the latest Xenothreat, where you had the information gathering, where someone was at the terminal putting in the data and making sure the systems weren't being hacked, and everyone else was running around getting the code so they could do that.
What you're almost describing is what they used to call the tier 0, tier 1 and all that. You're starting to see the maturing of different types of gameplay. And again, to use the cargo example, we've just gone from boom, it's in your ship, to now you've actually got to physically load it, and that puts time in. And that me and Agra did an episode on time a couple episodes ago. I'll put it up here, over here somewhere, one of the cards. We talked about your most valuable thing in this game is going to be your time. And then the other side of that we've kind of realized is also scanning, and it's the ability to be found. So something that's taken a great period of your time to accomplish, you're not going to want to lose it. You've invested time in it. You're going to protect it. So therefore, scanning comes into that, because you've got to be able to be found to make this tension, essentially, right? And so with scanning coming in, you've got these two secret ingredients. It's Chris Roberts' secret herbs and spices. No, but you get.
But it's also, not only is it scanning for the pirates and those who want to intercept you, that becomes important. You also want scanning because you want to be able to detect them.
Yes.
And then it kicks into those other things of
it goes out
and components and
So the two big ones are obviously escorts and piracy. But then, as you were saying earlier, there are many other gameplays. Do you want to list some of the ones you were talking about? Because it actually goes outside that. That's just the core gameplay, and then it ripples out in others. So you say the ones you were talking about.
One of the ones I was thinking of, it picks up that search and rescue aspect. That was kind of a broad avenue, because if your ship's broken down and you're not giving out a signal, how are they going to find you?
Yeah.
And so they need to be able to scan and find you. So
it's almost like the before and after effect. The before is the piracy and the escorting and the valuables, and after the shit goes down, if you lose, you still need to be found to be rescued. Whether you're a pirate or an escorter, you're going to need to be rescued. Whether both you and your ship.
And then you've got even got the aspects of if you're trying to stealth in somewhere, you
Yep.
want to be able to scan to find those looking
S-
for you,
Stop.
and vice versa.
Yeah. Stop them from finding you as you're getting in, and stop them from getting in. So yeah, yes, it definitely has other connotations. So we needed to kind of highlight those ones because they're the really obvious ones coming out this year, and they are monumental changes. And if you've played on the PTU or even just seen what's coming through the ISCs or any of the streamers and other content creators that are playing it, you can see what Cargo's got, and scanning is going to be the last thing we need to get that core ability in. And now we're going to go out into other ones.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like at the moment, without scanning, we don't care about what our systems are putting out in terms of the signal. We use the most powerful and fast jump drives. Doesn't matter if it's making us glow like a Christmas tree, because scanning doesn't matter. And so we've got those aspects of coming in as well. So you've got that carry through. The second scanning comes in, you start to worry, oh, do I use that system or do I use another component? Which component am I going to use, which is going to give me the best chance to avoid being seen, find what I want?
Essentially what you're describing is what I was saying earlier is just all these layers, and I think that's kind of what this episode is, tying them all together or showing all the different layers of gameplay that just interact with each other. So what Algared's just described is just essentially taking just ships and showing you there how just components has this layer, and then you've got, is it a medical ship, is it a combat ship, is it a we'll jump ahead a little bit here, because I think you've kind of highlighted ships. So I think we'll jump ahead to what we were going to talk about and then come back. But you were mentioning specifically base building, right? So I think that's a good place to talk about this, because with the base building, it is like a part of the room system. So a room can be on a ship, it can be an asteroid, and I think that also shows why they're doing the base building this year, because it is the core piece that is missing, that's just not in the game yet. And I think if you add that in, again, like I said with the ship, you've got the components that they'll have in bases, and all the different. You can add a room on, and there's your medical. At another room, there's your repair. There's your mining and stuff like that. So you're starting to see this cross-pollination of gameplay, and that's a really obvious one, obviously. But it's important to do the obvious ones before we move on to the more complicated ones. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Algared? Because I know you're the one that brought up that the asteroid stuff. The asteroid bases.
Well, if you're looking at the asteroid bases that they talked about in the IC, then that becomes something, if you and I go to an asteroid base, we clear it out. Does that mean, questions I had, will the infestations respawn, or could we leave an infestation in an area and it becomes part of our security? But that becomes areas where we can store equipment, refuel, rearm, repair, rest up. And I remember years ago, Chris Roberts was talking about, the contested space stations, where if you were holding it for long, you could actually improve it or repair it. And if that's still where he's going, you find an asteroid base that's been abandoned. You clear it out. You start repairing. You start fixing up, putting in medical facilities, etc., or putting in new power plants, putting in weapons.
They talked about. And just to add to that, they haven't talked just about asteroid bases. They've talked about outposts, space stations. So again, there's a scale to this as well, right? You can take over something small, or you can take over something large. So yeah, that's important to know as well. And you can hold it and lose it and all that. So again, that's creating that value. Algared spent 3 weeks going through that asteroid base, and I came in 2 minutes and just screwed everything. You know what I mean? Like, so that'll be a thing. But Algared will want to protect it because he invested his time into it, and it shows how important this is going to be.
And we got this idea that they're looking at these contested spaces as being time sinks and things that you'll invest in. Even the ones they talked about on ISC, the longer you hold it, the more you'll get. And so it's that. I think that's almost a tier 0 implementation, but you can almost see them when you see them talk about those the abandoned stations elsewhere. But that's kind of what they're picking up in the idea, and that's why those places, an abandoned space station or abandoned asteroid base somewhere, they become the places that people fight over, because they offer so much more as well as the resources. So.
And things like location will provide worth as well? Like, does it have better access to certain resources, or is it strategically important? How much do you have to secure it? Like, if I'm only one person, I can't afford to have all these turret emplacements. It costs too much for me to maintain and repair. But again, all these different gameplays that come in, you know, they're essentially microcosms of what you get on a ship, but then you have this scale that ripples out across. So yeah, it is really interesting to see all these layers interacting and starting to the maturity of gameplay. And as we said, every single little individual gameplay is going to mature on its own, and it's just going to have this almost like a doubling down effect. I don't know how else to explain it, or a ripple effect, I guess, is another way to look at it. So yeah. All right, so I think we probably should go back up to giving an example, right? I think that's probably where we're up to about now. So me and Algared picked big game hunting, right? Because that was just one that came to us, right? And we went, well, we want to, like again, as we said, leaving enough rope for you guys to hang yourself. We picked one that was kind of not out at the moment. So you guys can, you know, you can look at salvage, you can look at mining, you can look at all those and do this your own, right? But we deliberately picked one that didn't exist. And you go with the first one that you came up with, Algared, and then we'll just go down.
Well, big game hunting was when you're harvesting materials from them.
Mm-hmm.
Big game hunting and clothing. Now, I could see it, you know, just using the cloth of skins to make clothing, but we've also had that Christmas helm, the reindeer helmet.
Yep. The
so
skull.
Using the skull to make to actually incorporate into armor and make your, you know, make your gang have this really cool helmet. So that's an area that
the pirates have got to get their helmets from somewhere, mate. Come on, don't be prejudiced. But yeah.
You can't use Hurston heads because, you know, there's just not enough of them.
So I'm going to kind of put two together here. So I'm going to kind of put big game hunting and base building together, and big game hunting and salvage together, because they're kind of the same, but it shows that juxtaposition as well. So you might have an animal infestation in your base, and a big game hunter, you know, like almost like a rat. What do you call it, rat catcher, or in this case a space crab catcher, or whatever it is, and they got to come in and clear it out for you, both on your ship and in your base. But they talked about that in salvage as well. You might find a derelict ship and it needs to be cleared out of some type of infestation before you can actually go in and salvage it all. And that was that exploration element that was tied in with salvage, wasn't it?
And I can remember him even talking about, you know, the possibility of that infestation getting onto your ship.
Yep.
And then you taking that infestation unknowingly somewhere else. And so
the old what is it, the alien queen attached on the shuttle type of thing.
For those looking for a more gamified version, the old World of Warcraft virus.
Yes, that was good. That's a good example. Yep. But again,
Chris has talked about that in the past as well, you know, so
you can very clearly see that tie into medical all of a sudden, or, you know, or a sickness or something as well, or another further big game hunter. You start to see the combos. So the last two we've got here around big game hunting is obviously cooking. You know, you got to kill it to eat it. That's a really obvious one. And Algared, I'll let you hit off the last one, because I think this does go into medical as well. Yeah,
well, I'll do my little point for cooking, because
go for it.
890 jump, you've got that massive kitchen. 890 jump, they're going to be wanting exotic foods.
Yep, he loves his shark fin soup. Old man Hurston loves his shark fin soup.
You know, need exotic foods, so you need to find those KPM steaks. You need to find, you know,
or is it uwu eyeball soup? I don't know. Right? I don't know. Like, let me know in the comments what fancy soup Old man Hurston likes to eat.
What fancy soup do the Hurstons eat?
Yes.
And then it's not Soylent Green. I'll tell you that much. And the last one we got was kind of big game hunting and science, because body parts, you know, like you look at the real world, you know, you've got people will hunt the rhinos just to get the tusks so they can
drugs as well, use it for, you know, aphrodisiacs, all that type of thing. And and again, as if you tie it back into medical, finding cures for rare diseases, also causing plagues like Algared and I talked to before, or, you know, you can start to see, and that's just taking just big game hunting, and we've given you 5 or 6 other gameplays, and I'm sure there's other more. And let us know in the comments if you've got any others, or any like you can see there they start to cross-pollinate really, really quickly. And I get excited when I think about that. Like the ability that I'll go out and do one thing and it'll turn into something completely different.
I forget the name of it, but the gas pod, the one that fills up with helium and floats around. Or
Oh, the
hydrogen.
little floaty critter. Yeah, yeah.
But that's an introduced species on Hurston. It's not a native species, and basically it's anything. And so, is it a blessing for the Hurston because it eats all the rubbish, or is it a curse because it's anything? So you've got to kind of manage those types of things. And I can see people going to an area and finding a bug and saying, "What happens if I put it onto this planet? What happens if I put it on Hurston? What happens if I put it on Microtech?
Can you use it as a distraction so you can do something else?
Can I drop an arboreal stalker onto Hurston somewhere and it becomes a distraction because it's starting to cause damage?
Well, that was one of the things I talked about as an example on like group missions or group contracts. Can one group be on one planet, have to be pulling off one thing while, you know, like the whole in the movie where someone's hacking something while the other group's doing something else. You know, they're doing that, you know, spinning the plates thing. Like you know when you see those criminal movies and they're doing multiple things in different places at once that all tie into one thing. That's the type of level I want to see.
You've been influenced by the recent movie you watched, I think.
What movie was that? Come and tell me.
You know, the Ungentlemanly
Warfare. I did watch that, but I'm actually thinking. You know what I was actually thinking of? The Italian Job was the movie I was thinking of at the time.
That was another classic.
Yeah.
And 1950s version or 60s version, not the 1980s or 90s version.
Yeah. But that's what I was thinking of, where they just had multiple things going at the same time, and it just didn't seem like it tied together at all, but it really did tie together. And that's the type of complexity I'd like to see. Now, that is really hard to pull off procedurally, but if they can pull that off, and you know they have that system where they can slot different things in and rotate things in, and it just never feels the same. Man, we are going to be on such a winner of a game where you go out to do one thing and you come back going, I can't believe we did this, this, and this today. And that the system is smart enough that it can detect what ships you have in a local area. It knows your skill set. It knows gameplays that you like. That is all data-driven gameplay. And it is totally possible to program around that and pull that all in. And, you know, I just think that is amazing. It could even go to the level, right? This is the crazy thing. It detects that one of your friends is in a system and it pushes you and your friend towards each other to do a mission together. It could do that, right? And I'm not saying that it will do it in the first implementation, but down the road, tying all that stuff together could just be totally amazing. And they have talked about things like that in the past, and you can start to see where dynamic missions go. And they also talked about like all the box missions we have now are just one part of a multi-chain mission that they want to have.
And you can see that type of stuff going, and you can see, we know that they want you to be able to play with your friends. We know they're pushing people to do multiplayer, but we also know they always wanted you to be able to play with your friends. That was always one of the things Chris wanted. It's why the idea of the old agent smithing came up.
Yeah.
Now they haven't said that's not a thing anymore, but so I've still got to assume there's going to be some form of that somewhere. We don't know how it's going to be implemented. We don't know at what level.
Yeah.
But I've still got to say it's a bit like Death of a Spaceman and the other stuff that we see has been talked about in the past and extrapolated out. But even that ties into all of this of being able to play with your friends and then how they do that. And so there's a whole.
Yeah. So you mentioned, we were talking before the show, and I don't know if we're going to talk about this, but I'm going to add it back in, right? We were talking about in-game voice, and I've been playing a game recently called Dungeonborn. And in Dungeonborn, once you actually a match made with someone, you can type to them in text, but as soon as you get into the game, you cannot actually type anymore. You can only voice to them, right? And all of a sudden, if you start to think of that, if you are more likely to be playing with randoms than friends, you know, and I think what I'm trying to get in here is what Algared was alluding to. The one thing that we haven't really taken into account yet about this game, and I think a lot of people haven't, is the distance that you're going to travel. If your friend Fred or Bob, or let's just say Algared's 3 hours away from me, am I going to am I going to be able to Agent Smith to him? And if I can't, how am I going to play with him? I'm probably not. I'm just going to play with randoms, right? So if I am forced to play with randoms, all of a sudden I can't just jump instantly in Discord with them. So therefore, by removing the ability to type in text, if they did that, it forces you to the voice system. And this is where Algared was talking about. So I'll let you take over here, Algared.
Yeah. So when we were talking why scanning was important, and I said, well, one of the aspects of that is e-warfare. And if we're in a ship and you can jam our voice signal, or that can really screw up our system. So, so it becomes really important, and you just see how e-warfare and scanning and other things can even impact something as simple as just communicating with each other on a ship or on the land, or even electrical signals. That the old constellation landing on the planet and going out on the taking out the rover.
Again, it's
so bad.
If you're going back to scanning, it also brings in that the urgency, right? So again, if you are forced to talk in game, you're only going to communicate when you really have to. You're not going to just sit there having a conversation about the latest shenanigans. You are going to be serious game faces, because if you get caught out, all your time is just wasted.
It's going to be a streamer's nightmare.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, right? So these real consequences, and it puts, like, I go back to those older games, but like Pac-Man and stuff like that, or what they call now the Souls-likes, right? Because there's harder and there's consequences and stuff like that. Now, some people won't like that, right? But I think that's where they're leaning. They're leaning towards tangible, real problems, but also you got to put your time up, and the payout will be worth it at the other end. And you're not gonna, if you've ever played a game like Hunt Showdown, I know you've played that with me, and I know there's a lot of people that probably haven't, right? But it feels like there are real stakes, because when you go into that game, if you die, you lose everything, right? And then you've got to go back and buy it all again. It's the same thing in this. If you lose your ship, you lose all the cargo, and in some cases, you know as well as I do, the cargo is going to be more valuable than the entire ship and yourself combined. And then
if you've got a hulley.
Yeah. And so if you take the analogy of Hunt Showdown, but then also go, oh, you've only got limited lives, it gets even more tension, because you're not going to want to die. You're going to do everything you can to not want to die.
Can you
right?
imagine, like in Hunt Showdown, your character loses stuff, and you lose everything you took in with you.
Yeah.
But could you imagine if after so many deaths, you lost your account and had to recreate, you've lost all your lives, restart from ground zero, new character, blank account, blank everything.
It's the same analogy. Like we could do an entire episode on just the solo versus multi-group gameplay, because people will go, well, I don't want to get in a big ship and put all that investment in, because I could just lose it. Yeah, but if you're in a ship with other people, you've got more protection. I'm the bigger baddie. Piss off, like. So there's a whole conversation there, and people go, "Oh, well, now you can't solo a big ship." Well, technically you can if you're in low security or high security space. My bad, but you get my point, right? And you would only ever do it once or twice just to get yourself enough money you could do it on your own. But again, you can see they're pushing you to work with other people. It's very obvious.
And then there's the other aspect of, yes, you're in a small ship. Yes, and people will leave you alone, hopefully, most of the time. But then you've got 8 or 12 SC of cargo.
Yeah. You're not going to... So, again, why would you go out on a prospector on your own when you could go out with 2 prospectors and an escort, right? Because that security and peace of mind is safety in numbers. It's the herd mentality. We, as humans, we all have that fight or flight instinct. And I guarantee you'll go out once on your own and you'll get that sting where you lost a whole day's worth of shit, or however long you've been out. You won't do it again. You'll learn the lessons the hard way. And as older folks, I know you all know what I'm talking about, right? We all learned the hard way. That's how life is. We learn through failure. And I reckon this game is going to teach some really harsh lessons.
It's going to be worse than Ghost Runs. Now, if you played EverQuest or Evercrack, you'd know, you used to die, and you'd come back as a ghost, and if you could run to your run to your body or run to your gravestone. You'd get your body, get your gear, and get your experience back. If you didn't, you lost your experience. And sometimes that was massive.
Yeah. Well, there's no experience in this game, so it is. Yeah, it's very much similar. You are. Well, you won't be losing your rep as well. It depends on where you are and how you die, but you got my point, right? It's more going to be gear based. Yeah.
And if you lose everything and you respawn back at a station and you've lost everything, it is almost. You can literally go to a wreck and salvage what's there if you can. If you weren't killed by.
Yeah.
If you weren't just killed by negligence.
Yeah. So this episode has been a really extremely broad overview, and it was and that's why we typed everything out and we took our time with it, because we wanted to kind of encompass everything, but we just wanted to kind of open your guys' eyes to it and get the snowball rolling type of thing. Get you guys thinking about it, because we're now
after your mental juices.
Yeah, we're getting to that level now where you can start to tie it all together, aren't we? And hence the title of the episode.
Yeah.
Have you seen? And I guess I'll ask that in the comments, Algared. Have you seen any other content creators before or after, or now Voidy vids? Now the cargo's come out. Now people are starting to see how important cargo is. They're starting to look at other things outside that. And it was just interesting to see Voidy kind of go click, 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 click. And it was almost like it was a jigsaw puzzle, and you could just see all the pieces flying in off the side. And it was just like rapidly connecting them, going, holy shit. And he just had a mental overload, and it all just snapped into place. It was quite cool to watch. So
if you're a cargo hauler, does the added time mean that you are now looking for more people to play with to give you that added protection?
Yeah.
Are you looking at ways to mitigate the threat of being found?
Yeah.
Does it mean you're taking smaller ships? Does it mean you're taking bigger ships? How do you guys see it working out, and where do you see it going?
And probably some other ones would talk about that would definitely help Elliot out, who's the guy that works on the mission systems, is combinations of gameplay for scenarios, because I guarantee you the mission or contract people are doing that. They're going, how can we combine different gameplays together to come up with different mission ideas? Because I guarantee they sit around the table just brainstorming that shit. Because again, in just a short time we did it, if that's what we came up with, you can only imagine what they've come up with in the months and months, and a massive team, and it's their full-time job. So yeah, we're up for some really cool missions down the road.
And CIG, if you hadn't come up with those ideas for
check better be in the mail,
then we'd love you to use them. You're welcome to.
Yep.
So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Cool. I was gonna say we were on Twitter today as well. They put us on the official Star Citizen Twitter with our little video about the MPUV that we've now changed our mind on. That we should.
I still think the MPUV is a lovely vehicle.
It's just I'm more likely inclined for the Terrapin now, which we did an episode on as well. So
yeah. You did think it was meme worthy.
Yes.
I got to admit, I did prefer the Gladiator, but
yep.
It's such an old ship and a big clunky ship and a slow ship and.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing as like there were people commenting about the 890 jump, and I think there's about 4 or 5 ships that don't have skins, right? And they're all in the same boat. Why don't they have a best in show skin? And half the reason why people want them to get them up is just because once they do one best in show skin, all these other skins will follow off. And we've seen it with every ship that's ever come out, right? So yeah.
Indeed.
All right. Anyway. With that, then, don't forget to, I was about to say Algared, but yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone that went extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. Right.
Indeed.
With that, then, he's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.